The gaslighting never ends. It continues without cessation. And the latest to gaslight is Fallout creator Tim Cain, who claims that video game developers have no idea what gamers want, then proceeded to blame gamers for providing bad feedback to the video game developers. Cannot make this stuff up, folks. Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. I encourage you to head on over, become a paid subscriber. It costs less than a Starbucks coffee, just $5 a month, and you get all kinds of articles to read from everything in pop culture, whether that be video games, as we're going to be discussing here, movies, television shows, novels, books, tabletop gaming, comics. We cover it all. And you get it all for just $5 a month. And we are fully reader supported. So Tim Cain, one of the creators of Fallout, recently declared that video game developers and studios have no clue what gamers want, but then proceeded to blame gamers for providing bad feedback. He did this in a recent video upload to his YouTube channel just today. And he said, I want to give you the raw, unfiltered response to do devs know what gamers want? And here it is. No, we don't know what you want. We have no idea, seriously, what you want. I think this is utterly ridiculous just on its face. I think video game developers do indeed know what video gamers want. I think you see this with the plethora of first-person shooter games. Clearly, gamers do like first-person shooter games. And then obviously you can look into all the other different genres and you see that there are lots of different games that do really, really well depending on the developer and the type of game that they make. So I definitely think that this is just utterly ridiculous. Developers do know what gamers want, and they specifically know what gamers want in the genre that they're going to be making a game in. Obviously, not only do they likely have past data, we can just look at Ubisoft, for example. They know that gamers primarily don't want to play female characters, and that when they're given the option to play a female character compared to a male character, they'll choose it. They'll choose the male character almost 66% of the time or even more. And then not only that, but you see this from other developers too, whether that is BioWare, where I think it was like 80% of people chose to play male Shepherd instead of a female Shepherd, etc. So they obviously have all kinds of data where they do indeed know what gamers want based on the choices that gamers make in the various games that they play. And they have all of this at their fingertips. So they 100% know what gamers want, and they likely have it very kind of down to like the nitty gritty based on whatever genre of game they are trying to make. So I think this idea that game devs don't know what gamers want is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Nevertheless, Kane then goes on to put the blame on gamers. Puts the blame on gamers for not providing good feedback. And then he said this, here's the longer answer, and it's all kind of can be summed up as because you don't know either. He then explained, first off, many of you only tell developers what you hate. Great. You said what it is you don't want, but what is it you want? When you keep saying, I hate this in games, I hate this feature, I hate these kinds of characters and all that, great. What kind of characters do you want? If you hate sarcastic characters, well, there's an entire realm of non-sarcastic characters. But what is it you want? Do you want funny characters? Do you want serious characters? Do you want characters with a lot of background? Do you want characters with very little that you don't want to spend a wall of time in a wall of text of dialogue? What do you want? That's why you have to tell us what you want and not what you don't want. Well, again, gamers do this. They don't have to specifically send some kind of feedback form to tell you this. These video game companies have all kinds of data showing you what choices the gamers are making. And then you can also see they can purchase other reports saying what types of games people are playing. They can also see what they are playing, what is successful, and see maybe kind of glean from that what is success. I mean, I do this just on this website. I can see what type of articles people are reading based on the metrics I see from Substack over on fandompulse.com. And I was able to do that when I was at thatparkplace.com and I was at boundingintocomics.com. You can see where people are coming from that are reading your site. You can see what articles they're engaging in, etc. It's not very difficult to kind of extrapolate all of this information and be like, okay, well, this is what people are interested in reading, etc. So we'll probably do more coverage of that. I mean, this is common sense. This is common sense when you think of this. And he's creating all of these kind of straw mans here or whataboutisms to try and deflect from the fact that game devs actually do know what players want, what gamers want. And the real issue here is that they don't like what gamers want. That's really what it gets down to. They don't like what you want, and they want to try to indoctrinate you, propagandize you to like something that you don't actually want. And we've seen this time and time again, whether that be with transgenderism, feminism, critical race theory, Marxism, etc. They're trying to inject into these video games with either their character creators, the dialogue, the story, etc. They're all trying to impose that on the players to get them to try to buy into the various ideologies they're trying to sell you. But anyways, Kane goes on and he says that even if gamers do explain what they want, their explanations are vague. He says, even when you say what you want, you're often extraordinarily vague. You will say, I want a better game. I want better AI. I want a better UI. Yeah, I'll just slide the better slider from okay to great on all of those. If you don't say what you're talking about, it can be really vague. For example, what does better for you mean in a game? Or when you say, how is that AI bad? What are you talking about? Are they just running straight at you, not shooting? What do you mean? When you say you don't like a UI, what is the friction point in that UI that you're encountering? What is it that's bothering you? If you just say that UI is dumb, it's not helping. And trust me, it's not just gamers who do this. I've worked with people who've literally said that out of their mouth. They're like, that looks dumb. Great, I'll get right on that. But if someone actually said that to him in real life, saying that looks dumb, you'd be like, well, why does it look dumb? And that person probably provided an answer as to why it looked dumb. This idea that you might just have some people saying like, well, I don't really like the UI, but if you actually press them on it, they would probably give you an idea of why they didn't like that UI. And again, it's not up to gamers to be filling in comment forms that devs are asking for. I know some games do that. They actually will provide you a survey, etc., on their game asking for feedback. And you can go through it and fill it out if you want. But at the same time, I mean, it feels a little bit like work when you're having to fill out a survey. The reward usually needs to be worth it, because they usually do provide you some kind of in-game reward or something like that if you do that. But anyways, I think this is just more deflection, right? This is just more deflection. Sure, I mean, there's people that will say they want better AI, they want better UI, they want a better game. I think we can point to Star Wars Outlaws specifically when we're talking about bad AI, bad kind of detection and everything like that. And it was very obvious what we're pointing about. It was people were pointing out like, this looks like terrible. Look, these guys aren't even shooting at the character. They're shooting at a wall here. Like, this is absolutely awful. Like, I think Asmongold has a video where he has Kay Vess in some kind of cover in the grass, and the stormtroopers are just standing there, like, not even trying to pull Kay Vess out of the grass. That's how absolutely awful and terrible it was. And so people were pointing out how awful it was, saying this is really bad, and then pointing out, well, this person clearly needs to be pulling her out. She needs to be shot and killed because she's been surrounded by like 10 people. She should be dead. Like, you should have like a game over or reset or whatever it is in Star Wars Outlaws that they had. I mean, people are pointing this stuff out. To say that some gamers are being extraordinarily vague is ridiculous, because there's lots of people that are making in-depth videos. They're providing in-depth critiques saying exactly what would make it better as well. From there, Kane noted that gamers are not monolithic and have different preferences, like duh. Again, common sense. He points to comments on his previous videos about people disagreeing with fast travel, different difficulty options, or encumbrance mechanics, saying like certain people don't like fast travel, other people do. Some people like different difficulty options, others don't. Some people like encumbrance mechanics, some people don't, etc. Like, yes, people have different preferences. Like, they like different genres of games. Like, I'm not a big first-person shooter guy. I don't really like playing first-person shooters. I much prefer my strategy RPGs, my JRPGs, etc. Those are the games that I like to play. So obviously, there are different genres of games. You have different preferences within those genres of games as well. Common sense, right? He notes because of all these different differences, quote, there is no possible way to make a game that will make all of you happy. And I don't think anyone is expecting to make a game that's going to make first-person shooters, SRPG, or a strategy role-playing game, JRPG, Western RPG, platformer, Metroidvanias, people who like all that, like, be happy. I don't think that's what people are saying. And I think to kind of imply that that's what the argument is just utterly ridiculous. And I think it's a little bit of gaslighting because usually people are complaining about within the genre, right? And making comments within that genre of what they would like to improve, what they didn't like, etc. And again, to reiterate, all of these developers have data, usually from past games. They can get data from other companies that worked on those past games. They can see what people were saying about past games and the genre that they're working on, etc. This stuff is all available out there. Nevertheless, he added, what's interesting to me in this channel has made me really acknowledge it. You don't even agree on the fact that all of you are disagreeing. Maybe he's pointing to a couple people there. He didn't really provide any examples. In summary, this is what he said. I get that you, the individual, want what you, the individual, want. So he's very condescending here. But you have to realize that you, the individual, are not very good at giving developers feedback. And that you, the individual, are not everybody the game's being made for. Many of you aren't even in the majority. And I hear you. I don't think I'm in the majority. I like a lot of niche games. I've made a lot of niche games. And so that's kind of what I'm saying here is game development is hard on its own technically, but this lack of consensus among game players about what they want takes that difficulty to a whole new level. It's that much harder to make a game that you want to be popular, that you want to have a lot of sales, because most of you don't know what you want. Those of you that do know what you want are very vague at expressing it, and many of you don't realize that what you want isn't what a lot of other people want. And then he concluded saying, do game developers know what game players want? No, we don't. But again, this whole video explaining why developers don't know what players want is because he's saying that gamers don't know what they want. And I think that's just utterly ridiculous. I think most of us do know exactly what we want. We do know what our preferences are. We do know that we like certain genres over others. We do know what we like about those genres compared to others. Do I like every single strategy role-playing game? No, I don't. There are certain ones that have very, I would say, complex mechanics that I don't prefer. I much prefer the more traditional Final Fantasy tactics. You get your characters, you build up your roster. They can change classes or move up to different classes, etc. And then you move those pieces around the board, and you have different kind of maps that you're involved in, etc. I much prefer that, say, than I'm blanking on the name now. I know there's like 6 titles of it now. You play like a demon and you have to like retake hell, etc. Where there's all these kind of like you can manipulate like different tiles in the map and etc. like that. If you throw things, like I get that. I get that's interesting, and there's all kinds of different things you can do in those games. But I don't like that as much as I like the more traditional Final Fantasy Tactics style, just as an example. Whereas I'm sure if there's first-person shooters out there, they probably have their preferences on the type of gameplay they like in a first-person shooter, etc. How the gunplay handles, all of those different things, and they can provide good critiques on why they like certain first-person shooters over than others. But again, I think all of this comes down to the fact that these game devs do indeed know what gamers want, and they are trying to say they don't know, even though they do, because they have all this data that shows you, that he doesn't even talk about here, right? That shows you what the choices gamers are making. Like, clearly people are still interested in the kind of team hero genre. People were saying, oh, it's the team hero genre is the problem. That's why Concord died. Well, no, Marvel Rivals came around and said that it's still there. And what did it do? Obviously, the character designs, I think, are a big difference, right? Concord designs are absolutely ugly and disgusting. The game was clearly made to lecture you. They literally brought in a person claiming to be transgender to play one of the characters. They modeled the character after him. It's a man pretending to be a woman. Marvel Rivals isn't doing that. They are making characters that look like men. They're making characters that look like women, they're supposed to be men, right? They're doing that, and it's fun. From everything I'm seeing, people really like it. The gameplay is a lot of fun. It's not groundbreaking or anything like that, but it does allow you to be those superheroes, play those superheroes, and feel like you could be that character while you're playing it. And then, obviously, you can work with your teammates and things like that, just like the Avengers do in the movies or in the comics. So it does provide something that obviously Concord does not provide. And then obviously, I think Concord was more first person. Marvel Rivals is a third person over the shoulder, etc. So you have differences like that as well. And I'm sure that people who've played both can probably explain a little bit better why those two games are different and why one failed and why one did better. But this idea that game devs don't know what gamers want, I just don't buy it. I think this is total and complete gaslighting. And then to blame gamers for not providing good feedback or providing bad feedback as far as what we want is just utterly ridiculous too, because we do provide good feedback. There's all kinds of feedback loops that these developers are getting from us, whether that be the data from the game, whether that be data from other games in the same genre, whether that be from like surveys, comments, etc., whether that be on the game's forums. People provide significant detailed critiques of these games and give them to developers for them to parse and clearly see why people do or do not like their games. So to conclude, I think this is a bunch of bogus BS. These devs do know what gamers want, and they're just using this as a deflection point. And then case in point, the other dev to kind of make this argument was Assassin's Creed executive producer Mark Alexis Cote. He said this at the XDS24 conference. He said, "We need to find where players are, which has been a question I've been having for the last 2 years." This is utterly ridiculous, right? I mean, Steam posts where people are. You can see the PlayStation console sales numbers. You can see the Xbox console sales numbers. Like, they know where people are. They know where the gamers are at, right? Like, it's utterly ridiculous. Nevertheless, he says, where are the players? What are they playing? You can also see what they're playing. Like, I mean, the Steam DB shows you what they're playing. We have True Trophies that shows you what the PlayStation games are popular every single week. What's on the top list? They do a whole annual recount as well. You can look at True Achievements. They cover Xbox. I mean, I'm sure there's some data that you can that's out there for Nintendo Switch as well. There are various ways to find this stuff out, and this guy knows where to find it, right? He should. It's his job. If he doesn't, he should be fired or get someone to replace him. And this is, where do we reach them? All of this will become clear in the coming years as our industry transforms. It's clear right now. I mean, it's clear. Most people are playing PC right now. You can see that by the MAUs, the monthly annual users over on Steam. You see that the majority of console people are clearly playing PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. That's very obvious. You can just look at the console sales. And then you can also see kind of the hard physical sales data too, coming out of Europe, and I'm sure there's like extrapolations through that. You can also see what people are spending their money on when it comes to like the gacha games, where they're spending their money on. There's various sources you can get from that. Again, there's so much data. These people know what games are popular, and there's a reason why they make clones of other popular games, because they know that's what people like. I mean, it's not that difficult. These game devs do know what gamers want. It's just certain game devs, like the ones at Ubisoft, don't like that gamers like certain things, and they want to impose their will on gamers. They want to put their vision onto gamers. They want gamers to like what they want rather than providing a product that will entertain the gamers so that they will purchase it. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.